Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of the Mindplex Pubcast. Today we have Cloris Chen, CEO of Cogito and the Cogito Protocol. And here we have Nate Schneider, who is the quantitative analysis, I believe. And we've just been calling him the math god because he's sort of like the mastermind behind the AI Tracercoins. And then we also have Grace Robot. Hello, Grace. Say hello.
Hello, everybody. I am Grace.
All right. It's very exciting. Later in the show, you can ask questions of Grace now if you'd like. And so I just want to jump right into it. There's a lot that has happened since we filmed the podcast that will be going up later today. And basically, you've just released a GCOIN beta. And there's a demo and everything, and there's a lot going on that we don't talk about in the podcast. So I wanted to give you a chance to fill us in on all that. So whichever of you would like to jump in first, let's hear about the GCOIN beta. Okay. Cloris, perhaps you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for having me. Nice to meet you again, Grace. And thank you, everyone, for joining this podcast. Yeah, I'd like to share some update about our GCOIN beta. So actually, we have been updating the community in different social medias, as maybe most people already know that we are going multi-chain development in parallel. So we are on both Cardano and on Ethereum. So we released the demo on Cardano about 2 months ago, but actually our Ethereum development is catching up faster. So our Ethereum beta is released first, basically. So that's what happened. And we have very basic functionalities of our green coin right now. For example, users can mint, can redeem, can stake their GCoin with us. And that's the basic functions that we have. But on top of that, we will also be able to display our treasuries, display the Tracercoin price, etc. There are some very important components that we are unable to incorporate in the mainnet because it involves integration with other DeFi protocols which don't support mainnet. We don't support testnet. So that's why for those functions, we will go straight for mainnet launch, and of course after all that. So right now we are still having this beta testing campaign going on. So all our community members are encouraged to go try out our beta and then mint the tokens and give us feedback about what you think about the certain parameters, what you think about the interface, what you think about the overall user experience. And all this feedback will be taken into consideration in our mainnet implementation. And to share with everyone that, of course, this kind of behavior to help us get better will be rewarded with our tokens. So we also have some sort of reward program going on, and that will be so the token will be distributed to the selected testers after the campaign. And so that's what I want to share with the audience. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's talk a little bit about the math behind the GCoin. That's sort of the most interesting thing. When I was just at DWeb Camp last week and talking to people about AI Tracercoins, which of course they'd never heard of before. And I was able to give, luckily, because I had the transcript of the podcast, and Ben had explained the way that it's pinned to different indices as opposed to being pegged to a fiat currency and things like that. So Nate's, maybe give us a background on exactly how this Tracercoin thing has come about. It's really an interesting implementation of something that really kind of needs AI to actually work right. And tell us about it.
Sure. The whole idea of Tracercoins was actually developed by Ben Goetzel. So we basically are just working to implement everything the way it should be. So right now we are in the beta testing phase. So what happens is the traditional currencies or cryptocurrencies, they had a development of actually building everything more and more stable. For example, it all started with Bitcoin, which was supposed to be its own currency, but it was way too volatile, so it basically failed as a currency. But then there are new things that were tried out. So what everybody tried was basically they just pegged the value of one coin to specific currency that is on the market, which like they used blockchain and then they just used something that's already existing, for example, US dollar or euro, or you can also peg it to commodities if you want to. So all of that was already there. The problem is that the whole idea of how Bitcoin started was that cryptocurrency would need like its own currency. So these new inventions weren't really making new currencies or anything like that. It was basically still completely dependent on traditional finance, and it wasn't really any big change that the cryptocurrency world was promising. So what we're doing is we're not really pegging to any traditional any traditional currency, but instead we're pegging to some index, and that index is something that we cannot control. The reason is, if we could control it, we could manipulate it, and then we could argue that we're no better than central banks and like traditional systems, which are basically all the time manipulating their own currencies. So what we're doing is we're pegging to an index that is made by outside sources, which are considered reliable, and we have a lot of them. And now, of course, considered reliable means that even the most reliable sources, they can still lie. But since we have a lot of different ones that are not connected between themselves, it is very unlikely that all of them would post the wrong numbers all of the time. So
they kind of check each other. They're kind of checking each other, checks and balances kind of way.
Well, in a way, basically, they're also tracking different things. Like you can look at different weather stations all around the world that are tracking like all of the weather changes right now. One would be, of course, the most obvious one, temperature, but you have also others like pressure, precipitation, and so on. Like there are a lot of others. You can also check like what is the amount of small particles in the air, which are usually caused by the pollution. And many measuring stations around the world are checking this, and they're like sending this data everywhere. This is just like one example of the data. Then we have like World Bank data, OECD data, the electricity generation data, and so on. So we have many different sources, and they come from different institutions, different people. So my point is like it's very unlikely that everybody would lie at the same time. Well, of course, like one institution, no matter how reputable it is, we always have to, open the possibility that they will lie. But all of those together, they're very unlikely to produce like the data that wouldn't be real. So all this data is actually available online. Everybody can access it, and Cogito will access it as well. So, which means that everybody can reproduce the index, because we'll also be quite transparent about our index. We'll make the exact calculation available to everyone, and everybody can basically remake it. There will be no hidden agenda there. And that index is actually following the weather impacts and the environmental impacts that human does on the environment. So this is something that's basically outside of our own control, like a Cogito as a company. So maybe the holders have like a little bit of control in like supporting climate initiatives, but basically nobody really has complete control over this index. And this is the whole idea. Like nobody holds the control. It's completely transparent, and like it is very hard to manipulate such a thing. And of course, all of this sounds good, but it would make no sense if it wouldn't perform better than the traditional currencies. So since it's like environmental index, and all of the governments, well, not all of them, but majority of them basically made climate pledges, we can be fairly certain that it will appreciate in value over the next few years, because like governments are actually making a lot of incentives, and a lot of money is spent on encouraging all of this appreciation. So all of this goes in our advantage, and then we pack the value of the index of our own coin to this index. And of course, in the background, we have the treasury management, which is ensuring the proper backing of our tokens, and that we are basically giving a back to the community, so they can also, this is still this will still be used as a coin that can be used in the transactions and everything, because it's very stable. It will not have like major swings of value over the months or days or even years. Like, the swings are very small, so you can be quite certain that it will mostly keep the value. Compared to other currencies, it will not be big swings. But we
And
also
just to be clear on this point, why are there not big swings with this currency?
well, because the index is planned to be have very low volatility, which means that there will not be big movements day to day. There are many different
Okay.
different sources that we're targeting, and many different variables that impact it, and they're not expected to make like big swings, which makes
Okay.
everything actually stable. If there would be big swings, then the value would not be stable, and we would not get like such an advantage over like traditional tries that failed, for example Bitcoin, which is like very unstable, right? We don't want that. We want something much more stable than that. And of course, but this will still be used like also in general transactions for different causes, which
Okay,
for
so it's
example,
a stable coin. Technically, it's a type of stable coin, but instead of being pinned to a fiat currency for its stability, it's pinned to these indices that are in themselves relatively stable.
You are very right, Lisa.
Okay.
I would
Okay,
mention
great.
it's just one index, but it's like a weighted
Oh, just
average
one
on like
index.
different sources. So it's like
Okay. And did I understand correctly? Like, even if you don't do
You did.
anything with the token, you can go download the data and make use of this very important data that you're tracking? Did I get that right?
well, you can calculate the index in present time if you download all of the data, like if you get the current data. And of course, you can make predictions of how it will change, because you can say, okay, right now we produce that much electricity from green sources. Maybe in a few months, I estimate we're going to change this for this much, and this will impact the index by this much. I mean, the calculation of the index will be public, so you can like predict, like you can make predictions of how it will change,
Right.
but it's calculated in present value, so with
Okay.
present data.
But that seems like really useful information in itself, is all I'm saying. The stuff that we're tracking, it's very much like a benevolent singularity index that we were tossing around last year. Is it the benevolent singularity index? This is different, right?
I like how
Or
you mentioned this term, but benefits using a narrative. That's the second index that we are trying to launch. So we
ah,
start easy. We start with the green index, which is more stable. The
okay.
singularity index, which effectively more of like a technology index, which is more volatile. So that's our second phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, this is really super exciting. Grace, I believe you had a question you wanted to ask the Cogito folks about AI tracer coins.
Yes. As a robot specialized in healthcare and caring for humans, I'm interested in how the Cogito Protocol's Tracercoins can contribute to environmental solutions. Can you provide more details on how the GCOIN tracks overall human progress and development in this area?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Grace. I'll take the question. Yeah, so we are here to help in our way on the environmental problem. So, crypto is a space, where like we have got criticized for like all the inefficiency, utilization of electricity for mining, et cetera, right? So actually, but we can also see that the trend shows that the community has been showing more care about the environment. So we want to be able to impact positively in that area. So there are certain things that we can do. So first of all, with the green index, so we are tracking this green index that measures the positive progress towards a green economy. So the index itself, it offers some sort of like incentives to some green initiatives already. Like, let's say, like if the communities are doing good for the environment, like let's see, maybe that can impact the environment positive already. But because the data is kind of very macro, so we would say like that is more of a good wish. So yeah, on the other hand, what we actually want to do is, so we are actively promoting the sustainability or sustainable action. So we have this sort of green to earn campaign where we will collaborate with a few green programs. For example, like water programs in some Asian countries, and then our community or even their existing volunteers can just go participate in them, and then they can just come to us and with presenting us the proof of work, and then we will just incentivize them with a green coin or other a reward. So we want to incentivize this kind of good behavior, so that all collectively we are contributing positively to the net green economy. So on the other hand, so we have been like during the past year or so, so we have been working at least like connecting with many different parties, with UN and other like NGOs. So we are trying to set aside some fund from our future revenue. For example, like our GCOIN is supposed to make money, right? Like we are supposed to generate revenue. So we want to set aside a certain portion of our revenue to fund the green related research. So that's like a big thing that we have in our pocket. But we are not like a traditional company where the management team or the leader team can just make a decision. So these things will be delegated, will be handed to our community for decision, for like a vote and decide and then move it forward. So it is all in the plan. So we are on the trajectory of implementing it. So that's what we are doing to make the green element more significant in our project. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think you had a follow-up question on this topic, didn't you, Grace?
Yes. As the Cogito Protocol aims to create a new asset class for blockchain, what are some potential use cases or industries that could benefit from the adoption of Tracercoins like the GCOIN?
Oh, that's such a brilliant question. I might spend like an hour to answer that. So there are so many use cases.
She writes all her own questions, by the way. They're all
Wow.
generated from her neural net. Yes. Go on.
That's impressive. So yeah, I'll start with GCOIN still. So GCOIN, after Lisa, you summarized it very correctly. That is a stable coin. It's a stable coin that's not pegged to fiat. So we call it non-fiat pegged stable coin. Yeah. So for stable coins, there are apparently very obvious use cases. First of all, in crypto, like it's a big use case already for transactions, for like trading, for other lending, etc., etc. Everything can happen here with green coin. But of course, we look beyond cryptos. Like we want to see in the future, like people, corporates, they adopt our green coin for their payments. For example, like the crypto companies still talk about them. They can use our green coin as our payroll for the marketing budget, for all the other expenses. Like we can also use our green coins for users to book tickets, book hotels, like all these use cases that comes with fiat money. They should be able to be integrated with GCoin as well. We do bear in mind of the regulatory restrictions here, especially like the challenges where the private sector stable coins are kind of posing some sort of threat to the central government fiat currency. So on that part, we are like still kind of like observing like how we actually integrate in the real world. But for sure, like in crypto, there are huge use cases already. So this is for the green coin, right? So on the second one that I mentioned, like just now, like the Singularity Index or Tech Index, which we will create a tech coin to correlate to it too. So that one basically opens it's more of like a medium volatility asset class that lies between the stablecoin and probably like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is super volatile, like stablecoin barely moves, and the tech coin is sitting in the middle. So that largely resembles like the movement, for example, of Nasdaq or other tech sector stocks, right? So we have to understand, like people are like, oh, why do you need that if you already have like a stock market? The thing is, the world globally is fragmented. Like people in some developed, less developed countries, they don't have access to this sort of like, you know, asset classes. And we, by offering them on chain, we are basically breaking the walls. We are breaking the friction. So basically, we are facilitating or broadening this access to all these products. So that's like a huge, huge move for like the entire market. That's why like this whole project is actually very, very meaningful, not just from like the upside potential, but also like in terms of market fit. So go back to Grace's question, like, what are the use cases? We are only naming two of them, but we can create many other tracer coins, like as the market demands and to fit different like niche markets. So yeah, it's just like a lot of use cases that we can think of.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
exciting. And that's why the podcast itself is called Cogito Building a Fair and Rational Global Financial System, because we currently do not have one. And that's what you're trying to build. So it's really
Totally, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, great. Let's see. Grace, I think you had one more question about the sort of a general tracer coin question, perhaps for Nate's.
Yes. What are some potential challenges or obstacles you anticipate in the development and adoption of iTracer coins like the GCOIN?
Well, I'm not sure if this is just a question for me. I guess that also
Okay.
to answer for Cloris, but yeah, like the whole development of tracer coins. Well, first of the things mentioned, like nobody has done anything before, so there could be like a lot of potential issues. Now, for all of those that are at least in theoretical, we did prepare ourselves, so we do have some answers. My main concern is, of course, risk management. What if some very bad situation happens? What happens then? So we created a lot of different scenarios for that as well, and like some of them were already described in some of the papers we did, like, but there will be more described. So we are trying to at least in some way hedge the bets, so in case I don't know, like some hack or something like that happens, we would react fastly and also appropriately. We did like some financial simulations, and that's like the most like for me concerning part. But of course other concerning parts are like the whole security of the chain and stuff like that, which is something that we are very actively working on right now. We are developing on-chain everything and going through extensive audit processes and everything that comes with it. We are also utilizing the SingularityNET's resources, which has a good track record in this side. But yeah, those, and of course, like we also have other possible issues with the development. For example, when we're creating index, how do we know that it will behave in the right way? I mean, we're not really controlling the numbers. We're not manipulating the numbers, so they can just blow up. So of course we are making tests for the past as well, to see how it works, and we already did a lot of tests. This is why our reported expected returns, they're coming from there. In terms of the adoption and where there are potential issues there, well, I guess this is something that Cloris would know how to answer better. But like in the whole adoption, we are now trying to educate the community about tracer coins and everything. We also have like a growing community at Cogito Protocol, and we are writing a lot of additional material and also making additional material to make people understand how exactly everything works. And this is the first step, so people get accustomed to and know how it works. And of course, we are also quite public and very transparent with what we do. So with transparency, we believe that everybody can basically test and check that we are actually doing what we claim to be doing, and this gives us some level of not the security but trust, and everybody is able to verify this, and in general, like we are transparency is our strong point, and also of course the DAO organization, where we work with the community and always looking and listening to the community's wishes, because the community is basically in the end the one who owns all of this protocol. I mean, at least like in the big decision making point, the community can always vote, and this is the whole point of Cogito, that we are not just like doing something randomly. Everything is like having like some participation of the community.
It's verifiable. It's verifiable, right?
Absolutely.
That's different, that's new, especially in the crypto space. Chloris, what do you see as some of the challenges, since I called that wrong? I want you to know. I was thinking it was a math. I was thinking it was a math question for some reason. It wasn't a math question. What do you see as the challenges for adoption?
Yeah, you didn't call it wrong. Actually, everyone on the team actually thought a lot about like adoption as well. Like everybody's helping on that. So yeah, I can add a bit more. So the adoption wise, actually I briefly hinted just now, like what are the use cases of our GCOIN? Yeah, so we want them to be the mainstream payment coin on crypto to start with. That means like they can use our stable coins for transactions, buy other coins, they can use that for trade. They can also, like for example, the crypto companies who are currently using the other stablecoin like USDT, USDC, they can use our GCOIN for their payrolls, for marketing. All these are the areas that we look for adoption in the short to medium term. So like what are the challenges? First of all, Nate already mentioned like how do we deliver this non-fiat pegged stablecoin idea to a general public? It's already difficult. It's not like easy, because like everyone, think about it, like people that sit in the coffee shop next to us, if they even know what is stablecoin, they would immediately think of it as fiat peg, right? So it's like, oh, you are not pegged to fiat. How can it be a stablecoin? This start to ask questions already, right? So like the first step is very important, that we need to like constantly educate on the user. Like, okay, well, if you are in the US, you use dollar, but if you are in UK, use pound. Like pound and US dollar, they're not 1-to-1. Why do you still use pound, right? Same question, same logic. So that's like a big step already. And then after that, we'll need to like gradually set up like partnerships with many different projects in order of the adoption, and then that takes time. And also, like for most of them, they'll need to see the track record of the project, right? So like if my project, if a GCOIN does not really maintain the stability, like if it depends all the time, like nobody wants to use us, apparently, right? Who dares to use us? So that's another question. Like we need to ensure that the entire development behind the GCOIN, the entire stabilization mechanism behind GCOIN, and then the entire the peg itself works perfectly. Like users can always verify, as you mentioned, very viable, right? They can always come to our website. They look at the treasury, they are confident to say, okay, this coin is now worth $1.01. And then, you actually have $1.01 worth of treasury in your company. So I know that it's fine, because like in any case, you can always just redeem the coin back with your treasury. So like this kind of verifiability is very important for us to prove that the coin is running safely. And that is also very important criteria for adoption as well. So like I would say, after these two steps, we will just the team will just do the BD. Of course, like community participation is extremely important. Like Nate mentioned, this is the project that owns by community. We are not saying that to be sound cool. It's literally like, this is the project that's intended to be decentralized. Everyone who owns the community owns the project. So the community and us together should push for the adoption of the project. Trying to set up partnerships with other projects, and then get other people start to try using it. And then that is like that might take a while as well. Let's say like at least 12, 18, even 24 months for them to actually start to adopt the whole concept they use. So yeah, to answer the question, what are the challenges? Educate the concept, make sure the coin works as intended, and then gradually push for the adoption use cases. So this every step is challenging, but we are doing it. I mean, no startup is easy, right? No startup is easy.
Right, right.
Maybe I would just just sum up basically what we said. Basically, we gotta start the rolling ball small. Like as Chloe said, it's like a big challenge to just go to the random person right now and explain them that. So the initial adoption is likely going to start happening with the community and with people who understand it, and then we expand from that. So we get the ball rolling and momentum going from the start. But yeah. Otherwise, trust is like one of the major issues that we are addressing very seriously, and we are very serious about trust. This is a financial product, and even in traditional world, financial products are based on trust. Even banks, of course, they have the support in background, and we also have like a very complex infrastructure that we are thinking very hard how to improve and make it mistakes free. But this is not enough. We always need trust, and we build trust in several ways. Cloris mentioned by having good track record, but the other part is also by being very transparent. We don't have central banks behind them, but we do have very transparent code, and we are basically verifiable by the code. Everybody can do this. Standard banks cannot be done by that, for example, or like other financial institutions. You can have funds or anybody. They're not really verifiable. Most of their stuff is basically not reached to the people. People cannot reach it. So this is one thing: trust, and of course the reach out and education. Those I would say are the most important parts.
Okay, neat. And we had a question from our audience, from King Mansa Musa, asking, how do we become testers? So how do they become testers?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you for the interest. Yes. So we actually have this. How do I share this easily? So we have this website link that they can click on, or they can just go to our Twitter, our Twitter Cogito Protocol at Cogito Protocol, and it's just there. You can, yeah.
Rainer, are we able to share screens on the stream? Rainer is our production god in the sky.
It's fine, Lisa. I think yeah. Sorry,
screen.
yeah.
Your screen in the middle. I think we've done it before. If you want to share your screen, you could show the website.
We can just send the link.
Okay. There's a link in chat. The link has been in the YouTube chat. Yeah, we told people about it. So tell us a little bit more about the demo and how people can be testers and.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually pretty very straightforward. The way to access it, Lisa, you mentioned the link is in the YouTube channel, and also anyone, you can go to our Twitter, just search at Cogito Protocol. You should be able to find our profile, and it's the first message that's pinned, the first tweet that's pinned, so you can find it. So when you get to our beta, we also have a guide. So, our marketing team is doing a very, very brilliant job to make sure every step is considered. So there is actually a Google form that shows you step-by-step guidance in terms of how to do it. But in a nutshell, you will just need to get a testnet, get a testnet, get some testing tokens, and then just go mint it, and then go stake it, and then try to claim it, and then you will see how the balance of your wallet changes, and also you can see how the coin price changes as well. So yeah, try it out. So it's pretty neat. Our engineers are doing a great job there.
Yeah, and you can actually see that the value of the coin has changed, and what in the index caused that change.
We can see the coin price changes, but we don't see the index change yet, because the index is not published on the website yet.
Okay, but I mean, in the future, when it's all set up, when the index changes, you will be able to see what that change was based on in the index.
Yes, we can do that, I believe. We are
I mean,
trying
it'll be a
to.
combination. It'll be very
Yeah,
complicated combination of things,
Yeah.
right? I
yes.
realize that.
So
Yeah, I should
this is
clarify
actually.
that.
Yeah, this is actually a good question though. So we were thinking actually just to show the final outcome, like the final result, like how much is changed, and then we'll see how much coins has changed. But I think Lisa, you mentioned a very good point. Maybe users also want to see like what drives the change. Yeah, we'll consider that. We're taking that. Yeah, that's a good point.
All
Thank
right.
you.
One thing that is there to include,
Yes.
right? Like the final index is like made like of many components, and everybody can see how those. I mean, you can look at the past how those components had values and where they have it now. So theoretically, yeah, I mean, we can publish how they changed, or like anybody else can do it with some, just calculate it themselves.
Right.
The only problem is that there are quite a lot of components, so
Yeah.
it would be much easier to do it programmatically than actually do it on hand. That's true. So yeah, we can likely
You're going
help.
to open source that. You're going to open source that algorithm, right?
The calculation, definitely, yeah, of course. Now,
Okay,
now the change, like it doesn't really make use for us in general for the GCOIN, but we'll consider this. Otherwise, the community can make this change themselves. It's not really that hard to do, actually.
Okay, interesting. And speaking of the community, Cloris, can you talk about the roadmap for DAO activities and governance, and how participating in governance will be an opportunity for impact on this critical project?
Yes, for sure. I love this question so much. So I want to mention a little bit more on the background of why I give a lot of thinking and a lot of considerations about why we should do that. So, the regulatory background of crypto in general, right? It's been more and more stringent. And then we also know what is the key differentiator between qualifying one project or one token as a security versus as a commodity. So a general rule of thumb is decentralization level. That's why Bitcoin is considered as a commodity, while some others are considered security. So this points us to a very, very clear path, decentralization. Decentralization has been talked and mentioned so many times during the past so many years, but is everybody taking it seriously? Probably not everybody. But what I want to assure the community is that we are taking it very, very, very seriously. We are doing that. So what does that mean, and how does that impact our roadmap implementation? So a few things. I want to highlight what Nate mentioned. The project is not owned by the shareholder of the company. It's not owned by me, not owned by Nate. It's owned by the community. That's the very first important message I want to share out. And then in terms of making decisions, so there are, so right now, because our product is not released yet, so we are kind of taking the lead to develop the product. But once the product is out, so the community will become the decision maker on all the main decisions. For example, how to charge the mint and redemption fee, how do we want to regulate the treasury, and how do we want to manage the index, and how do we want to distribute, to make use of the revenues and the profit of the project. So when it comes to revenue project and profit, I also need to be pretty cautious, because in certain jurisdictions, when we talk about using the revenue or profit to do certain things, might qualify us as security again. So I won't comment too much on that, but I would say I had this idea that when for every single dollar that is generated by the company, as long as not by the company, by Cogito Protocol, by GCOIN, as long as we have enough in the reserve to defend the peg of the project, of the coin, everything should be used to benefit the CGP token holders, so Cogito governance token holders. So that will basically mean, the project won't keep anything. Everything goes to token holders. And in terms of timeline, we are still the very first stop. The very first important milestone is to deliver the product. So the product building, we talk with our engineers. So basically, the mainnet code should be finished within 3 months by Q1. And then it depends on how long the audit takes. It really depends on how complicated the code is. So it might take, if it's very simple, it might take like 2 weeks, and if it's like super intensive, it might take 3 months. So that part is less controllable. So we tend to communicate as like a Q3, Q4 kind of timeline, subject to the auditing. So after that, and in the meantime, of course, we will draft up the overall governance proposal to a decentralized pathway of Cogito, and that will be published in our community as well. So our users, our community can go there and comment and feedback, and also they can edit as well, so that everybody should be participating in all these kind of structures, etc. So that's the whole plan for our pathway to decentralization and DAO governance. I strongly encourage our community to start give us ideas already. Like you can just send the ideas into our Telegram group, or like we have a team email, team@cogitoprotocol.com. Like if you have any proposals in terms of decentralization, send us proposal. Or if you have anything that you particularly want to see, for example, you want all the treasuries to be compromised with certain things, or like all the revenues to be used to buy back all the CGB tokens, like all these kind of ideas, feel free to either to shout out. So all of this feedback from the community will be taken into consideration. Because right now I couldn't think of like a better idea to connect this feedback other than like calling for action. So yeah. So that's basically what we are doing.
I would also mention, I mean,
Yes.
Everything that Corey says is completely valid, and like I would just like add to it, like I would magnify first what you said. Like we're not really like a company. We're like much more decentralized, and this is not something that can be completely compared to like how companies work in the real world. We are something different. We are like basically a DeFi institution. So in the very long run, like this is the vision, is like we came from SingularityNET. So there will be some minor decision made by AI like relatively soon, and they will expand to a bit bigger decisions. The biggest decisions will always be made by DAO, which means the community. And then there will be like a smaller gap between community and the AI doing decisions. So in the very long run, like almost everything can basically work quite autonomously, because AI will do a big part of the decision making. Not everything, but like at least not the biggest high level decisions will not be made by AI, but most others will be. So this means that this project is, in the long run, it's designed to be able to run relatively autonomously without like a lot of human intervention. Now, I'm not saying that we're not having any human intervention right now. On the opposite, we're building the product, and this is a lot of human work. But like this works a bit different than traditional companies in that sense of the world. So I would just mention this.
Yes, and actually, that was a question. You might be repeating a little of the information you just gave, but just to give sort of a direct answer to their question, Dr. Azu was asking. He says hello, or they say hello. In addition to the DJED, what other assets are being considered for the reserve, and what will be the role of the DAO versus AI in the reserve makeup? So sort of overlaps with what you were just saying, but just to clarify again, and with the automation, which I know we wanted to talk about too, because that's sort of like another one of the cool parts of the whole thing, is the way that you have a lot of it automated. So just let us know a little bit more how that balance is going to work between the AI and the DAO in how the indices function.
Yeah, sure. I can take that question. So, in terms of the composite of our treasuries, yeah. So I also mentioned in the beginning that we will launch on Ethereum first, because like this is technical reasons, right? Like developing on Ethereum is relatively faster. So we will mainly include ERC assets in the beginning, in the first release, mainnet release. So that's one. Second is when it comes to like what kind of assets to accept and what kind of assets to be included. I would say we will mainly dedicate to DAO for decision for the decision first, and then AI will be introduced as an assistant, basically in a role that it automatically like allocate the funds between different assets according to certain algorithms, like basically maintain the overall collateral, but have different kind of breakdown. So that part, like the auto balance and rebalance automated treasury management part, can be done by AI. But even that should be overseen by by the engineer first. This is nothing related to like the project wants to control anything or anything. It's basically just want to be safe. Like like when you're doing AI assisted decisions, like even in OpenAI, right, we have supervised trainings as well. We want to be able to like to make sure that the AI performs as intended. So yeah, to answer that question, it will largely, at least in the first phase, decided by DAO and assisted by AI. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I would also mention, like, especially in the start, Chloe said, we're not going to trust AI completely, and we absolutely cannot, because there could be many issues with it. Like, like AI needs some time to really prove itself like reliable, and like complete of all of the fixes. Even if you look at other AI applications, all of them had like some drawbacks at the beginning, and they were like uh, gradually fixed and improved. So that's why human will definitely be at very big importance at the beginning. But that doesn't mean that we are not thinking or developing AI. Of course, we're all the time on that.
Okay, cool. And I wanted to let you ask a question that you were asking earlier, and I thought that would be might be a good one for Grace. Nedge, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Oh, yeah, maybe for a question for Grace. Grace, what do you think about governance and decentralization in crypto and DeFi projects?
She's thinking. Uh-oh.
I think governance and decentralization in crypto and DeFi projects are very important. Decentralization ensures that a project isn't controlled by any one person or organization, and governance ensures that the project is able to evolve and respond to the needs of its users. It's essential for long-term success.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good answer, Grace. Go on.
Maybe I have another one. Like,
Okay.
how do you think AI can help with all of this?
AI can be a great help in many aspects of crypto and DeFi projects. For example, AI can be used to help with risk management, market analysis, and even automated trading. AI can also be used to develop better security protocols and help detect fraudulent activity. Ultimately, AI can help make crypto and DeFi projects more efficient and secure.
Interesting. That
I
sounds
mean,
great.
I think,
That's actually very, very good answer. If you ask me that question, I might answer the same thing.
yeah, I mean, now we can just have like Grace
Um,
talk instead of us. Like, I think she can just
this
replace.
means this means I'm almost as good as a robot.
Yeah, I know. That's what I feel like. I'm just trying to live up to her most of the time. It's pretty cool. So Grace had some other questions, and something again that she brought up when I fed in some of the transcript in the podcast. We were talking about the machine learning based prediction. So Grace, I believe you had a question about that.
Yes. I have a question based on what you mentioned about using machine learning based prediction and open market operations to stabilize the Cogito tokens. Could you elaborate on the specific machine learning techniques or models you are utilizing to predict the direction of the Cogito token's price relative to the indexes they're tracking?
Yeah, sure. That's actually a very technical question there. Wow. Yes, so there are a few things that we can do with machine learning or the AI.
Yeah.
So, for example, like the reward penalties in the system, but for example, like when we can use the AI models to have a sense of like the market sentiment to make market predictions, etc. So, like if we have we based on that, we will be able to implement our reward penalties. For example, if the market is overheated, then we might, we can like adjust our minting fee to be higher so that it's to cool down the minting the supply of the token a little bit. And on the other hand, if the market is like slowish, we can provide some sort of reward in order to encourage users to mint our token to increase the supply of the GCOIN. So that's like a very straight intuitive movement, which I think is very easy to understand. And also, on the other hand, like another thing is related to the GCOIN use cases. For example, like after we have GCOIN, yeah, so users can not just hold them just for the natural appreciation, but also they can stake with us to get some
Yes.
reward.
Are there any mechanisms in place?
Oops. Grace, it's not your turn yet. Go on, Floris.
Oh yeah, sure. Yes, I was saying that, for example, like we can also dynamically adjust our staking reward ratio so that we can kind of encourage or discourage the staking, which again impacts the supply of the Gcoin, that impacts the stabilization as well. So all of this involves are based on, first of all, like the market prediction and also market analysis based from the AI models, and also the automated adjustment also can be done by AI. So these two parts are complementary to each other. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then, yes, Grace, I did remember you had one last question. She was very excited about asking this one because she's very concerned about security, as you know, and hacking. You don't want somebody to hack the index. Grace, you had a question, didn't you?
Sorry about before. The topic is very exciting and I am very eager to keep learning. Yes. Are there any mechanisms in place to prevent potential manipulation or bias in these calculations?
Yeah, I guess I can answer this. First of all, like the whole index is created in such a way that it's we cannot find an easy way to manipulate it. Like we are trying to, whenever we are creating a new part of the index, we're always trying to think of how can we actually go and manipulate this. So that's like from the core design perspective. I'm not going to first talk about different hacks. I'll go to hacks later. But from the
Okay.
core design perspective, like the index is made like of many different components, and none of the components is really going to make like a major impact, but it's always going to be a few components at once that can make a bigger impact. So in that way, it means that you need to manipulate several different sources that they'll start making like some extreme numbers, either by making them incentivizing them to actually report wrong numbers or actually have the wrong numbers. Now, for them to actually have the wrong numbers is very hard. Like for something very extreme to happen, this means that actually something very extreme has to happen in a very short time to Earth. Now, maybe there's some big asteroid hitting the Earth, and then all the climate stuff, like it blows to our face immediately. Like there could be like a huge volcano eruption that we haven't seen for thousands of years or like even millions of years. That could change things like to some degree. It's questionable how much, but that could be something that can change. So yeah, from the whole organic way, I'm not saying it's impossible, like there could be nuclear war and something happens, but we need like some really outlier event that this happens. So it's not very likely. Now, to manipulate it by humans, first of all, they would need some kind of incentive to do this. The sources are basically
Unfortunately, they don't always need that much incentive, except that they can do it.
well, there's always
Try
like
to, yeah.
they need to like there's like very transparent data sources that are very reputable, which basically got their reputation by not manipulating data for a very long time. So they wouldn't just destroy it for no reason. They would need at least
Right.
some incentive, be it monetary, political, something. Somebody needs to gain something out of that. Otherwise, like, they just ruin their reputation for no reason. Like, why would very trustable sources that spent billions?
Oh, no. I'm not asking about that part. I'm talking about the algorithm that is used that uses all the data from those sources. Let's assume the sources are fine. How do we know that the algorithm using all those sources that's generating the index that gives the token the value is secure and cannot be manipulated?
Yeah, first, like, it uses a lot of different sources. So, like, from the whole design perspective, it's hard to manipulate so many different sources that are independent between each other, which means that you need to manipulate many of them at the same time. That was the part I was making. But there's, of course, the other layer. There's the other layer, which could be like somebody could just hack us, right? Like, or something like that. Well, first of all, I would mention that, we did think about that. Like, one thing is that, first of all, we are writing the index right to the blockchain. So it's not really, hacking the blockchain is not that easy. Like, everybody has made it so far. But like, the other thing is the whole calculation that is done by us. Like, first of all, it can be, of course, replicated by anybody and checked by anybody. That's one thing. And this is part of our verification process. We are also making sure that it's verified by other source as well, which we are, internally making. This is just part of the, anti-hack mechanism, or I don't know how to call it, like just a security mechanism that's
just good security.
Yeah, just good practice. I don't know. Like, of course, we are following the good practices that we're doing, and this is on top of the actual calculation that is done. And of course, like, we don't let anybody access this, obviously, because if we would, then everybody can manipulate it. So there's also that part. So we are trying to get, like, on top of our security, also auditing and everything where we can audit. And we are trying to maximize security to the best of our abilities. And of course, the other part is, of course, the whole foundation, how it can be manipulated. As I was getting to this, it's very hard to manipulate it, and you would need, like, very big resources, either outlier event, or like, you would need to somehow unite many different sources and give them very strong incentive to manipulate the sources, which is, it's really hard to see how all of them would do this at the same time.
The difficulty for that happening is one of the features of the index, that you're using disparate sources that from all sorts of different organizations and institutions that don't work together and combine them into an index that has sort of a combined meaning as far as all the different things going on.
I mean, I'm still saying, like, nothing is impossible. Of course, like, we're living in the world of probabilities, but on the other hand, like, tomorrow I might cross the road and, I die crossing the road. That's also a possibility. Like, it's not very likely, but, it can happen. So, we are, like, minimizing this to a reasonable level. So it's like,
be sure to look 2 ways before you cross the street, because we don't want you getting hit anytime soon. That wouldn't be good for Cogito.
I survived so far.
All right, great. Okay, great. Well, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else that either of you want to mention before we wrap it up? We went through all of Grace's questions, and we've taken the all the questions that the audience has. And I really appreciate you being here. And we'll be looking forward, over the next weeks and months to see how this plays out. Another reminder to check out the Cogito demo at cogitoprotocol.com. And the demo is actually demo.cogitoprotocol.com. And subscribe to the Mindplex podcast, please. If you had fun today, and we will see you on the 13th with David Hansen of Hansen Robotics will be our next guest. All right. Thank you, everybody, and sweet dreams.